The auction block. The sun on the alien trade planet Varlon 9 was harsh and red, burning the air with dry heat. The marketplace was loud, full of shouting, laughing, and cruel bargains. But one stage was silent. Everyone stood watching the platform, where the personal slaves were being sold. She stood there, Alira, a young alien girl with soft blue skin and glowing purple eyes. Her wrists were chained. Her long, silver-white hair was dirty, but still beautiful. Her head was bowed, but her trembling body showed fear. Her lips were dry. She had not spoken in days. She had stopped hoping long ago. "She's half-royal breed," the auctioneer shouted. "Trained to obey. Only 20,000 credits to start." Some aliens whistled. Others laughed. "She looks weak," said one creature with sharp yellow teeth. "Too quiet," said another. "Probably broken." A tall lizard man walked up and touched her arm roughly. "Can she even speak?" Alira didn't flinch. She had learned not to respond, not to cry, not to scream. It only made things worse. Then someone stepped out from the back of the crowd. A man, a human. He looked very different. Rough black jacket, tall boots, a scar across his cheek. His face was hard, but his eyes were calm. Cold but not cruel. The crowd went quiet. "A human? What's he doing here?" someone muttered. "Probably drunk," another laughed. The human looked at the auctioneer. "How much for her?" The auctioneer blinked. "You want her?" The man nodded. "She's a personal slave," the auctioneer said slowly. "Not a servant, not a worker. She's for pleasure." The man's face didn't change. "I heard you the first time." Murmurs spread. Some laughed. Others were confused. Why would a human want a personal slave? They were known for rejecting slavery, for fighting against such things. The auctioneer shrugged. 20,000 credits. Final price. Without another word, the man tossed a card chip. It hit the auction table with a clink. Transaction complete. The chain was handed over. The auctioneer smiled. "She's yours now. Don't return her when she breaks. No refunds." The man didn't reply. He took the chain and turned. Alira followed, her eyes wide with silent confusion. The walk to his ship was quiet. No one dared stop a human, not even on this lawless planet. Not when he walked like a soldier. Inside the ship, the man unlocked her chain and dropped it to the floor. Alira didn't move. He opened a small box and pulled out a warm food bar. "Here," he said simply. She stared. He sat down and placed the food in front of her. Then he stood and walked to the pilot seat. She waited for an order, a command, a touch. But none came. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Finally, she picked up the food and ate fast, afraid it would be taken away. But it wasn't. When she finished, she curled up in a corner, waiting for the night to bring pain. Instead, he placed a blanket over her and said, "Rest." Alira didn't understand. Why wasn't he like the others? Why did his touch not come? Why didn't he smile cruelly, like the buyers before? She stayed awake, too scared to sleep. But for the first time in many years, a small part of her hoped. And in the silence of that cold space cabin, a tear fell from her eye. She wiped it quickly, looking around in fear. But the man, Captain Jace, just sat quietly piloting the ship into the stars. No commands, no chains. Alira opened her eyes slowly. She wasn't in a dark cage. She wasn't cold. She wasn't chained. For a moment she thought she was dreaming. Then she remembered. The human Captain Jace. She sat up quickly, heart pounding. Her eyes darted around the small ship cabin. She was lying on a folded blanket wrapped in another. Her hands, they were free. She gasped quietly. Free? She looked for him, expecting to see him standing over her. But he wasn't. He was across the room, sitting with a data pad, quietly reading. His face was calm. Not smiling, not angry, just focused. Alira waited for a command, a name call, a cruel joke. but he didn't even look at her. Minutes passed, then an hour. She finally whispered, "Master?" Jace turned his head. His eyes met hers. "Don't call me that," he said softly. "My name's Jace." She froze. You bought me. "I paid to get you out of that place," he said. "Not to own you." Her lips trembled. "But I am a slave." "Not anymore." She didn't understand. What did that mean? Where were the rules, the punishments, the commands? She stood slowly, expecting him to stop her. He didn't. She took 2 steps toward the exit hatch. He didn't move. "Where would you go?" he asked gently. She froze again. She had no answer. Her world had always been chains and orders. She had never thought of where, only what she was told. Jace stood and walked to the storage bay. He returned with a small shirt and pants. Human clothing. Simple, clean. He placed them near her. "These will fit better." She stared at them. The fabric looked soft. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. Jace looked at her with a strange sadness. "You deserve more than this." He turned away and left the room. Alira clutched the clothes. She didn't cry. She didn't know how, anymore. That night she sat at the dining table watching Jace quietly eat. He looked up. "You don't have to sit there like a statue. You can eat. You're safe." Still, she didn't touch the food. He sighed and pushed his plate toward her. "Try." She picked up a piece with shaking fingers. One bite, then another. It tasted warm, real. Not the nutrient slop from her old cell. She looked up at him. "Why? Are you kind?" Jace leaned, back in his chair. "Because I've seen too much cruelty in this galaxy," he said. "And I promised myself I wouldn't add to it." She looked down. Her voice was small. "Everyone else did." He didn't answer, but in that silence something passed between them. Not words, not orders. Just something real. Later, when she lay down again in her corner, Jace walked by and paused. She flinched slightly, afraid, but he only placed another blanket near her and said, "If you ever want to talk, I'll listen. If not, that's fine too." Then he walked away. Alira looked at the blanket, then she looked at the ceiling. No chains, no pain, no commands, just space and peace. She didn't believe it yet, but for the first time she wanted to. The humans passed. Alira watched him from the shadows of the ship's corridor. Captain Jace was not like the others. He wasn't soft, but he wasn't cruel. He trained every morning in silence, swinging a heavy staff through the air with powerful moves. His boots slammed the floor as he spun and struck invisible enemies. His muscles moved like steel under his jacket. His face showed no emotion, only focus. She had seen guards before, but this was different. He fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. Alira stayed hidden, but he knew she was there. "I don't bite," he said without turning. "You can come closer." She stepped into the light slowly, afraid. "Where did you learn to fight?" she asked, voice soft. Jace finally stopped and looked at her. "Earth Defense Forces," he said. "A long time ago." She didn't know what that was, but it sounded important. He threw her a small towel. She caught it by reflex. "Good hands," he said. "Ever trained before?" She shook her head quickly. "No," she whispered. "We were punished if we touched weapons." His face darkened. He sat on the floor, breathing hard. Alira sat across from him, careful not to get too close. "Do you have family?" she asked, unsure if she should speak. Jace looked away. His jaw tightened. "Had." She waited. "My wife and son," he said after a long pause. "They died on Mars Colony 3. She blinked. "War?" "Raiders," he said. "They were after tech, didn't care who was in the way." His eyes turned cold. "I was on another planet. Too far to help." Alira didn't speak. What could she say? I was supposed to protect people, he said quietly. But I couldn't even save my own. That silence returned. Heavy. Real. Alira wanted to say something, but instead she did something else. She reached forward, slowly, and placed her hand over his. It was a small touch, but Jace didn't pull away. Later, Alira walked through the ship alone. For the first time, she explored without fear. She touched the walls, felt the smooth metal, smelled the soft burn of engines. Everything here was his. But he let her walk freely. She passed by a half-closed door and peeked inside. It was his private room. A photo was pinned to the wall. An old picture, human woman with kind eyes, a small boy holding her hand, and Jace, younger, smiling. Alira stepped closer, then stopped. A music box sat on the table. She touched it, and it played a soft, haunting melody. One she didn't understand, but somehow, it made her heart ache. Suddenly, Jace appeared in the doorway. She turned, afraid he'd be angry, but he just looked at the photo. She loved that song, he said. Played it every night to help our son sleep. Alira's voice shook. I'm sorry. You don't have to be, he replied. You didn't take them from me. She wanted to ask, then why are you alone? Why did you save me? But she said nothing. He stepped forward and turned off the music box. I keep this room the way it was, he said, because I don't want to forget. Alira looked at the woman in the photo. She was beautiful. Jace smiled faintly. She was strong. Like you. Alira's heart beat faster. No one had ever called her strong before. Only slave. Only thing. She looked at him. I'm not strong. He looked back. Not yet. But you will be. That night, Alira couldn't sleep. She sat in the ship's common room, staring at the stars outside the glass window. Then she whispered to herself, he lost everything, and still saved me. She didn't know why. But deep inside, something new had started to grow, not fear, not pain, something and warm, something she had no name for. Yet. A choice offered. The ship floated silently near a small neutral station orbiting a dead moon. Lights blinked outside. No weapons, no slavers, just cold stars and the hum of the engines. Inside, Alira sat quietly at the dining table, holding a warm cup of tea. She had learned how to make it herself. Jace had shown her once, then left her to try on her own. She did it right. That made her smile. A soft, private smile. Captain Jace stepped in, dressed in his long coat and gloves. He placed a small leather pouch on the table beside her. Credits, he said simply. And a travel pass. This station connects to 5 major systems. You'll be safe. She blinked, confused. For what? He didn't sit. His voice was steady. You're free, Alira. You can go anywhere you want. The door's open. She froze. Her hands shook. Leave, she whispered. He nodded once. Yes. No tricks. No tests. Just freedom. Her eyes burned. She looked at the pouch, then at him. I thought you said I was already free. You are, he said. But now the choice is yours. The door to the station ramp opened with a loud hiss. Air rushed past her skin. She stood at the edge of the walkway, staring into the bright-lit tunnel that led to the terminal. Crowds moved inside. People. Aliens. Freedom. Jace stood behind her, silent. She clutched the pouch in her hand. Her fingers dug into the leather. She took one step forward, then stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. She thought about what waited inside. New worlds, new faces. But no Jace. No calm voice. No warm tea. No music box. No mornings of quiet. Training. No one who saw her. She turned back slowly. He met her eyes, and for the first time she saw fear in his. Not for himself. For her choice. Her lips trembled. May I stay? she whispered. He blinked once, then nodded. Always. They sat together that evening on the small observation deck. She handed him back the pouch. I don't want to be alone, she said. You won't be, he replied. She took a deep breath. I don't want to be yours, and like before, I want to be something else. He nodded slowly. You already are. She looked up at him. Then what am I? He smiled gently. You're someone with a future. Later, Jace taught her to hold. A training staff, she swung it once. Clumsy. He laughed softly. Too stiff. Loosen your grip. She tried again. Better. See? He said. Not weak. Her heart felt light, not because she was strong, but because someone believed she could be. That night, she slept in a real bed. He gave her his quarters. Said he preferred the pilot chair anyway. She lay in the quiet room staring at the picture of his lost family. Her lips moved silently. I will not leave you, Jace. And for the first time in her life, she dreamed of tomorrow. As a person, not a possession. The attack on the ship. The stars outside were peaceful. Too peaceful. Jace stared at the ship's control screen, frowning. Something wasn't right, no alerts, no signals, but his instinct screamed. Alira, he said quietly. Strap in. She looked up from her notebook. She had been practicing human letters, tracing his name again and again. Why? She asked. Worried. He didn't answer. Just stood, walked to the weapons locker and pulled out a rifle. Seconds later, the warning lights turned red. Boom! The ship rocked hard. Sparks flew from the walls. Alira screamed and grabbed the table. The engines whined like dying animals. Pirates, Jace shouted. Slaver scouts, I knew it. He ran to the controls. A second explosion shook the cabin. Then, voices. They were already inside. How? Get behind me, he shouted, raising the rifle. Alira tried to run, but the door slammed open. 3 aliens in dark armor stormed in. One grabbed her by the arm, yanking her back. No, she cried. Jace opened fire. One slaver fell, another ducked behind the wall. The third placed a blade to Alira's throat. Jace froze. Drop it, the slaver shouted. Or she bleeds, Jace growled. He lowered the rifle slowly. Alira looked at him, eyes wide with fear. Run, he mouthed silently, but she couldn't. Her knees were shaking. They hit Jace with a stun stick. He fell to his knees, coughing. Alira screamed, Leave him alone. They didn't listen. Another hit. He collapsed, unconscious. Take her, one said. The boss wants the girl alive. She's just a slave, another said. No. Look, at her. She's the one who escaped. Worth a fortune. They dragged Alira away, kicking and screaming. Jace, she cried. Jace! The pirate ship flew into the black sky, leaving only smoke behind. Jace's ship was burning, broken. Inside the wreck, Jace lay still, but not dead. His hand twitched. Then his eyes opened. One word left his lips. Alira. Hours later, he stood on a broken floor, blood on his face, fire in his heart. He stared at the empty docking space. She was gone. He looked down at her notebook on the floor. Her last practice word was shaky but clear. Jace. He picked it up, folding it with care. Then he picked up his rifle. I'm coming, he said. No one takes from him and lives. Not again. Fire and rescue. The illegal slave station floated in deep space like a dark wound, hidden behind an asteroid field. No patrols, no laws, just trade, in flesh. Inside, Alira sat on the cold floor of a dirty cell. Her wrists were chained again. Her long hair had been tied up harshly. Her old dress had been replaced with revealing cloth she hated. Her dignity, shredded again. The slaver lord grinned from the other side of the bars. You'll be sold at the next moon auction. Highest bidder gets the royal toy. Alira looked down. Her heart had broken again. Why did I leave his ship? she whispered. I was free. Suddenly an alarm blared. Yo, whoa! Guards ran past the hallway shouting in panic. The outer wall, he's breached it. He? Who? The human. He found us. Outside, Jace flew a stolen raider ship like a missile. He slammed it into the docking bay, jumped out before the crash and hit the floor rolling, rifle in hand. His coat burned at the edges. His eyes were wild. He moved through guards like fire through paper. Each one went down, fast, hard, precise. He didn't speak. He didn't hesitate. He had one goal. Get Alira back. Inside the auction hall, slavers prepared to run. Alira heard footsteps, fast, heavy, determined. The door exploded open, and there he was. Captain Jace covered in ash, blood on his face, but alive, breathing, burning with fury. Alira gasped. Jace. The slaver lord grabbed her, holding a blade to her neck. Come closer and she dies. Jace stopped, his rifle lowered slowly. But then, he smiled. You should have sold someone else. Bang. The lord's weapon flew from his hand, shot clean by Jace's second blaster, hidden in his sleeve. Before the lord could react, Jace crossed the space and tackled him to the ground. A quick fight. 2 punches. 1 crack. Silence. Alira stared. It was over. Her chains dropped. He knelt in front of her, breathing hard. I told you, he said. No one takes you again. She threw herself into his arms, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid to touch someone. They left the station as it burned behind them. Jace set the charges before they escaped. No more cages. No more auctions. Gone. Forever. Back on a quiet moon station, Alira sat beside him on a bench. Her head rested on his shoulder. You almost died, she whispered. Almost, he replied. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. I'm not leaving again, she said. Even if you tell me to. He smiled faintly. I won't. She reached into her pocket. It was the folded paper. Her handwriting still messy, still shaky. Jace. She placed it in his hand. This is yours, she said. You gave me my name back. I want you to keep it. He took her hand in his gently. No, he said. You keep it. A new name, a new life. The sunrise on Mira 3, a peaceful colony world, was golden and warm. The sky held no warships, no slavers, only soft clouds and birds singing like bells in the wind. On a hill just outside the small town, a home was being built. Not by machines, but by hands. 2 sets of hands, one human, one once chained, now free. Alira stood barefoot in the garden, planting glowing blue flowers she had once only seen through glass in slave cages. Now, they were hers. She looked up as Jace walked toward her, shirt dirty with wood dust, a toolbox in his hand. You're not supposed to lift those, she said, smiling. Says who? He smirked. My wife? She blushed and looked down. That word still felt like a dream. Wife. Their ceremony had been quiet. No crowd, no grand dress. Just 2 hearts that had seen pain and healed each other. He gave her a silver band. She gave him her old collar, melted down and shaped into a pendant that read, Free. The people in the colony didn't ask questions. They knew Jace's past. They had seen his scars, and now they saw him laugh, smile, live again, all because of her, and Alira. She learned what mornings felt like, what laughter meant, how it felt, to sleep beside someone and not be afraid. One evening as the stars appeared, Alira held a datapad and showed him something. It was an application. She wanted to teach others, especially those who were once slaves like her. She looked at him nervously. Do you think I can? He looked at her like she was the galaxy itself. You can do anything. That night, under the starlit sky, they sat on their porch. He rested, his head back. She leaned into his side. She looked up. Do you remember the day you bought me? I didn't buy you, he said. I rescued you. She shook her head. No. That day I was just lost. But now, she placed his hand over her heart. Now I'm found. They sat in silence for a while. Then she whispered, Do you want to hear my full name now? He looked at her with curiosity. She smiled, softly. My name is Alira Jace, not a slave, not a number, a woman, a wife, a person. He kissed her forehead gently. Not just a person, he said. The best one I've ever known. Far away, the galaxy still burned in places. There were still battles, still slavers, still cruelty. But on that small world, on that quiet porch, a human and an alien, once strangers and broken souls, sat together as equals. And finally, truly, they were home. The end.